The great meeting hall on planet Nexus Prime was bigger than anything humans had ever seen. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in rows that seemed to go on forever. Some looked like giant insects with wings that sparkled in the light. Others were made of pure energy that glowed and shifted like colored smoke. There were creatures with tentacles instead of arms, and beings that looked like walking crystals. At the front of the hall sat Supreme Chancellor Veltar. He was tall and blue, with 4 arms that moved when he talked. His voice was deep and loud, and when he spoke, everyone listened. "The old laws are clear," he said. "When different worlds cannot agree, they must send champions to fight. The winner gets to control the space territories that both sides want." Li Hyun sat in the human section and felt his stomach twist with worry. He was Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. Humans had only met alien races 3 years ago, and already they were being forced into this ancient fighting tournament. The problem started when the Krell Empire claimed some star systems that Earth also wanted to explore. Other species had already picked their best fighters. The Krell sent Sestak, who was a giant reptile warrior covered in scars. His claws could cut through steel, and his roar could shake buildings. Everyone knew he had never lost a single battle in his entire life. The insect people called the Hive chose Zixth as their champion. He had 4 arms that moved faster than lightning and compound eyes that could see in all directions at once. His sharp mandibles could bite through almost anything. The energy beings known as Ethereals picked Wispvor, who was made of pure power. He could become solid or turn into energy whenever he wanted. He could also exist in several dimensions at the same time, which made him almost impossible to fight. Ambassador Li looked at Earth's champion and wanted to cry. While other worlds sent their greatest warriors and most dangerous soldiers, Earth had accidentally sent Kim Tae. He was a 45-year-old janitor who worked on Seoul Space Station cleaning floors and fixing broken things. The mix-up happened because of a computer error. Colonel Park Jin was supposed to be Earth's fighter, but he got sick from alien bacteria and was stuck in quarantine. When the emergency call came through, somehow Tae's name got put in the system instead. He had been mopping the 3rd-level hallways when security guards came to get him. Tae still wore his work uniform with a name tag that said Kim Tae Maintenance Staff. His tool belt was full of spray bottles and cleaning brushes. He kept asking when he could go back to work because the bathrooms on level 7 needed deep cleaning before the night shift started. When the crowd saw him, they started laughing. Even the serious ethereals seemed amused, and their energy forms flickered in what looked like cosmic giggles. The betting systems immediately changed the odds against humanity to numbers so high they barely fit on the screens. Tae himself looked confused about the whole thing. He kept checking his watch and muttering about overtime pay. He had 3 kids at home who needed food and school supplies. Tournaments did not help pay bills. His floating cleaning cart stayed close beside him, filled with the same supplies he used every day at work. The arena began to form around them using advanced technology that could create any environment. The battlefield would change every few minutes from asteroid fields to underwater depths to the surface of burning stars. Each champion would fight the others one by one until only the strongest remained. Supreme Chancellor Veltar raised a ceremonial blade that glowed with inner light. "Let the tournament of champions begin," he announced. "May the strongest species win." The champions took their starting positions around the arena. Sestak flexed his massive claws and let out a roar that made the walls shake. Everyone could see the battle scars covering his tough scales. Each scar represented an enemy he had defeated. Zixth's compound eyes analyzed every possible angle of attack while his mandibles clicked together menacingly. His 4 arms moved in perfect coordination as he prepared for combat. The insect warrior had studied thousands of fighting techniques from across the galaxy. Wispvor's energy form crackled with barely contained power. He shifted between dimensions, making parts of his body appear and disappear. Bolts of electricity danced between his fingers as he demonstrated just a fraction of his true abilities. And Tae was checking his supply cart to make sure he had everything he needed for work. He tested his spray bottle trigger and nodded with satisfaction. The industrial cleaning solution looked fresh and the mop head was clean. His tools were ready for another day of keeping things tidy. Ambassador Lee put his face in his hands and tried not to think about what would happen next. In just a few minutes, this simple working man would face creatures that could destroy buildings with their bare hands. The future of humanity's expansion into space depended on someone whose biggest challenge was usually removing stubborn stains from corridor walls. The other ambassadors were already preparing to offer their sympathy. The Krell delegation looked smugly confident while pointing at their champion and laughing. The ethereal representatives began discussing how they would divide up human territory once Earth inevitably lost. But something strange happened as the starting signal echoed through the arena. Tay calmly reached into his cart and pulled out his favorite spray bottle. He tested it one more time and looked around the arena with the same careful attention he gave to every workspace. He noticed that the arena's structural supports had stress cracks that could cause accidents. The dimensional stabilizers were making a humming sound that indicated poor maintenance. Several safety systems showed warning lights that nobody else had noticed. For the first time since arriving at the tournament, Kim Tae smiled. He had found problems that needed fixing, and he was very good at fixing problems. This was just another day at work, and Tae took pride in doing his job well, no matter where that job took him. The countdown reached 0, and the most important battle in human history began with a janitor who just wanted to keep things clean and safe. The arena transformed into a dangerous asteroid field floating in the darkness of space. Sharp rocks the size of buildings drifted in all directions, with no gravity to hold anything down. Most fighters would panic in this environment, but Tae had been cleaning zero-gravity areas for 15 years. Moving through floating debris was just part of his normal workday. Sestak, the Krell champion, decided to attack what he thought would be the easiest target first. The reptile warrior used his powerful legs to launch himself toward Tae with deadly claws stretched out ready to kill. This exact move had crushed dozens of enemies before, and Sestak expected the human to die quickly. But when the claws arrived, Tae was not there anymore. The janitor had spotted something interesting on a nearby asteroid and floated over to investigate. It looked like a stain that might be dangerous, so he went to clean it up. He completely missed seeing the attack coming. Sestak crashed into the rock instead and went tumbling through space, unable to control his momentum. The crowd gasped and then became very quiet. Had the human just avoided one of the galaxy's deadliest warriors by complete accident? Tae found the stain very interesting indeed. It was some kind of organic material that looked like it could eat through metal hull plating. This was exactly the kind of space fungus that caused hull breaches and killed people. He sprayed it with his cleaning solution and watched it dissolve safely. Someone should really be more careful about biological contamination, he said to himself, while making a mental note to report this to station management later. Safety violations like this could shut down an entire facility. Meanwhile, Zikth attacked Wisp Vor, using all 4 of his lightning-fast arms. The insect warrior struck with incredible speed, but the ethereal champion simply turned into energy and let the blows pass right through him. The two fighters danced around each other in a deadly pattern, with neither able to land a hit. Sestak recovered from his crash and roared with fury. His pride was hurt, and he wanted revenge. This time he approached more carefully, studying the human's movements to find the best angle of attack. But Tae's behavior made no sense from a fighting perspective. The janitor was now examining the arena's structural supports by tapping them with his mop handle and listening to the sounds they made. Years of maintaining spaceships had taught him to recognize when support beams were getting weak and might break. Poor maintenance standards, Tae observed, while noticing stress cracks in several important beams. He made another mental note to suggest improvements to whoever was responsible for keeping this arena safe. Sestak struck again, using all his battle experience to plan the perfect attack. His claws swept in a pattern that should have been impossible to avoid. But Tay bent down at exactly the right moment to pick up a piece of debris that was making the battlefield look messy, and the deadly attack passed harmlessly over his head. In the spectator stands, Ambassador Lee was gripping his chair so hard, his knuckles turned white. Every few seconds, Tay seemed about to die, but somehow survived through what appeared to be pure luck. The other diplomats had stopped laughing and were watching with growing confusion. Nobody could understand how a simple janitor kept avoiding attacks from trained killers. Zeketh managed to trap Wispivore between two large asteroids, forcing the energy being to stay solid long enough to be hit. The insect warrior prepared his most powerful strike that would end the fight. But just then, Ty's cleaning cart bumped into him, while the janitor was chasing what looked like a piece of space litter. The collision sent Zeketh spinning into the asteroid field, where he got stuck between two rocks, while he struggled to free. Himself, Wispivore took the chance to hit him with a devastating energy blast that eliminated the insect champion from the tournament. "Sorry about that," Tay called out politely, not realizing he had just changed the entire battle. He was focused on the litter, which turned out to be a discarded energy cell that could have exploded if left alone. His supervisor always said safety first. Now only Sestak and Wispivore remained, and both champions were starting to realize the human was not as helpless as he looked. Every time one of them set up an attack, Tay would interfere at exactly the wrong moment, always while doing some normal cleaning task that seemed completely unrelated to fighting. The arena environment began shifting again, transforming from the asteroid field into an underwater maze filled with hungry sea creatures. Most champions would panic at the sudden change, but Tay had cleaned underwater sections of space stations many times. He held his breath with practiced ease and began swimming through the maze with the same methodical approach he used for everything else. The water was murky and filled with tentacle monsters that had razor-sharp teeth. Dangerous creatures lurked in every dark corner waiting to attack. But Tay had dealt with much worse things in the flooded sections of old space stations. Behind him, two of the galaxy's most feared warriors struggled to adapt to the new environment, while a simple janitor from Sol continued his work completely unaware that he was winning the most important tournament in galactic history. Estak's reptilian body gave him some advantage underwater, but the heavy warrior had trouble navigating the complex maze of coral formations. Wispivore could phase through solid barriers, but the water interfered with his energy form, making him flicker and grow weak. Tay, meanwhile, was having a wonderful time. "This is much cleaner than the lower levels of the station," he said, though. His words came out as bubbles. He had dealt with flooded compartments, algae blooms, and underwater pest control more times than he could count. This was just another day at the office. The battle continued with two legendary fighters struggling to survive in an environment that their human opponent found as comfortable as his own living room. The underwater maze was even more challenging than the asteroid field. Massive tentacles as thick as tree trunks writhed through the dark water searching for prey. Creatures with teeth like broken glass lurked behind every piece of coral. The arena designers had created this nightmare to test how well champions could fight while dealing with hostile sea life and poor visibility. Sestak's reptilian heritage helped him somewhat in the water, but his heavy, muscular body struggled with the tight spaces between coral walls. Every movement was slow and difficult. Wispivore could phase through the coral barriers, but the water was interfering with his energy form, making him flicker like a broken light bulb. Tay, on the other hand, was having the best time he had experienced in months. "This is so much cleaner than Station Level 7, he said to himself, though the words came out as streams of bubbles. The janitor had dealt with flooded compartments, algae infestations, and aquatic pest problems countless times. This underwater maze was just another workspace that needed proper maintenance. He quickly noticed that the tentacle creatures were leaving slimy residue on every surface they touched. This was exactly the kind of contamination that could cause serious health problems, if not dealt with immediately. Tay's professional instincts kicked in, and he pulled out a specialized scrub brush designed for underwater cleaning. His cleaning solution worked perfectly, even in water, dissolving the dangerous slime and making the creatures pull back from the treated areas. The crowd watched in amazed silence as the human janitor essentially pest-proofed the arena, while two legendary warriors struggled just to survive in it. Stock finally cornered Wispivore in a narrow canyon between two towering coral walls. The Krell warrior's claws had adapted to underwater fighting by extending webbing between the sharp digits for better swimming. He had the energy being trapped with no escape route. Victory seemed certain, but Tay chose that exact moment to swim. Between them, while chasing what appeared to be an unusually large piece of floating debris, the object turned out to be a broken piece of the arena's water filtration system, which explained why the water quality was so poor in this section. As any experienced janitor knows, you always fix the source of a problem, not just clean up the symptoms that it causes. Tay began examining the broken filter to determine what repairs were needed. His unexpected arrival disrupted Sistak's carefully planned attack and caused Wispivore to phase through the coral wall in panic. The energy being escaped while the Krell warrior found himself face to face with a human who was completely ignoring him in favor of inspecting a piece of broken machinery. "Someone really needs to talk to maintenance about this," Tay said, with bubbles streaming from his mouth as he tested water flow through the damaged filter. He had already identified 6 major problems with the arena's life support systems that could cause serious safety violations. Sistak roared in frustration, though the sound was muffled and distorted by the water. He had fought enemies who used fear tactics, enemies who relied on superior strategy, and enemies who had better weapons. He had never fought someone who treated deadly combat like a routine safety inspection. The environment shifted again, this time to the surface of a volcanic planet with rivers of molten lava and poisonous gases filling the air. Most living beings would need special equipment just to survive, but Tay had cleaned industrial furnaces and toxic waste facilities many times. He simply pulled a breathing mask from his supply cart and kept working. "Air quality is terrible here," he observed while checking readings on a small atmospheric monitor he used for dangerous work areas. Someone could get seriously hurt breathing this stuff without proper protection. The volcanic environment should have been perfect for Sistak. Reptilian species loved extreme heat, and his tough scales provided natural protection from toxic gases. This was supposed to be his moment of triumph. He charged across the lava field toward the human, confident that victory was finally within reach. But Ty was busy cleaning up a chemical spill. Someone had apparently been careless with industrial coolant near one of the lava flows, creating a dangerous reaction that was producing unstable crystal formations. Any responsible maintenance worker would have to deal with this immediately before the crystals caused an explosion or injured someone. Tay applied the appropriate neutralizing agent from his supply cart and watched the dangerous crystals dissolve safely into harmless compounds. The timing was absolutely perfect for reasons he did not understand. As Sistak leaped across the lava flow, his feet landed exactly where the crystals had been forming. Without their support, the surface crumbled like a broken sidewalk, sending the mighty Krell champion tumbling into a pool of molten rock. Sistak's natural heat resistance saved his life, but the fall left him trapped in the lava, struggling to climb out of the superheated liquid. Wispivore had been hiding in gas form among the toxic fumes, and now he seized the opportunity to deliver a final energy blast that eliminated the reptilian warrior from the competition. Now only 2 champions remained in the arena, an ancient energy being with powers that could reshape reality itself, and a middle-aged janitor who was currently testing the chemical composition of a lava flow because the readings seemed unusual for standard volcanic activity. In the spectator stands, the betting systems had crashed completely. Nobody was laughing anymore. Even the most arrogant species representatives were watching in stunned silence as their understanding of combat was turned upside down. Ambassador Lee was still gripping his chair, but now there was genuine hope growing in his chest. Against all logic and reason, Kim Tae was winning the tournament not through strength or strategy, but simply by being exactly what he was. The final round was about to begin, and the entire galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is someone who approaches every problem with professional competence and refuses to be distracted from doing their job properly. The arena transformed one final time into the most impossible environment yet created. The new battlefield existed in several different realities at the same time. Sections of the fighting area would appear and disappear without warning. Gravity changed direction randomly, making up become down and left become right. The basic laws of physics seemed to bend and twist in ways that hurt to think about. This was exactly the kind of place where Wispavor felt most comfortable. As a being made of pure energy, the ethereal champion could exist across multiple dimensions naturally. He had been saving this advantage for the final battle, knowing that no physical creature could match his mastery of trans-dimensional combat. Tae looked around the shifting maze with the same calm expression he wore when facing any challenging work assignment. He had maintained quantum storage facilities and dimension-folding waste disposal systems before. The technology was certainly impressive, but at its core, this was still just a space that needed proper maintenance. Dimensional stability is way off the recommended parameters, he muttered while checking his instrument readings. After 15 years of working on space stations with experimental technology, Tae had learned to always come prepared for unusual situations. His tool belt contained sensors for everything from radiation levels to quantum fluctuation measurements. Wispavor materialized in his full, terrifying glory, no longer bothering to hide his true power. The energy being stood 3 times taller than any normal humanoid, crackling with forces that could reshape matter at the molecular level. Lightning danced between his fingers like pet snakes, and reality warped around him like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Human. The champion's voice resonated across multiple dimensions at once, making the air itself vibrate with power. You have been fortunate until this moment, but fortune ends here and now. Prepare to face the full might of the ethereal dominion. Tae was examining a wall panel that seemed to be malfunctioning badly. Warning lights were flashing in patterns that indicated serious system failures. "Excuse me," he said politely without looking up from his diagnostic work. "Do you happen to know who is responsible for the dimensional generators in this facility? There is some serious instability in the quantum matrix that could cause reality tears. That kind of safety hazard could kill everyone in the building." Wispavor paused, completely caught off guard by the question. In thousands of years of existence across multiple planes of reality, no one had ever interrupted his dramatic pre-battle speech to discuss facility maintenance concerns. The energy being was so surprised he forgot what he was planning to say next. Deciding to end this bizarre conversation quickly, Wispavor raised his arms and unleashed a blast of pure destructive force that could have vaporized a small moon. The attack tore through multiple dimensions at once, ensuring that no matter which reality the human tried to escape to, the deadly energy would find and destroy him. But Tae was not trying to escape from anything. He was fixing the dimensional stabilizer. The janitor had noticed that someone had installed the quantum resonance dampeners completely backwards, which was causing dangerous feedback loops in the dimensional matrix. Any maintenance worker with proper training would recognize this as an immediate safety hazard that had to be corrected regardless of what else might be happening around them. As Tae adjusted the control settings to their correct positions, the dimensional stabilizers kicked into proper alignment for the first time in years. The maze stopped shifting unpredictably. Reality became solid and stable, and Wispavor's multi-dimensional attack was suddenly contained within normal 3-dimensional space. The massive energy blast hit the newly stabilized walls and reflected back toward the ethereal champion like light bouncing off a mirror. Wispivore barely managed to phase out of the way in time to avoid being destroyed by his own attack. For the first time in the entire battle, the ancient energy being looked genuinely surprised and worried. "Impossible," Wispivore hissed while his form flickered with what might have been panic. "You cannot manipulate trans-dimensional technology without decades of specialized training and advanced degrees in quantum physics." Tay finally looked up from his repair work with a puzzled expression. "Oh, this equipment is pretty standard stuff, really. We have similar systems on Station Level 12 for the waste processing plant. The trick is keeping the quantum alignment properly balanced with the dimensional frequency output. Otherwise, you get reality bleeds, and those are an absolute nightmare to clean up afterward." He went back to his maintenance tasks, completely missing the fact that he had just casually dismissed one of the most advanced technologies in known galactic space as basic equipment that any competent janitor should understand. Wispivore attacked again, this time with surgical precision born from eons of combat experience. Dozens of energy lances designed to slice through molecular bonds shot toward the human from every possible angle. There was nowhere to dodge, no way to defend, and no escape from an attack that could cut through the strongest materials in the entire galaxy. But Tay was washing the windows. The arena's observation panels had gotten quite dirty during the battle, covered with debris, atmospheric residue, and various stains from the different environments. As any professional cleaner knows, you cannot do quality work if you cannot see clearly what needs to be done. The janitor's industrial strength cleaning solution had a completely unexpected side effect on Wispivore's energy-based attacks. The chemicals were specifically designed to break down molecular bonds in the most stubborn stains, and apparently they worked just as well on energy constructs. The deadly lances dissolved on contact with the treated glass surfaces, leaving the champions. Attacks completely useless. "What exactly is that cleaning substance?" Wispivore demanded, while his energy form flickered with something that looked very much like fear. "No known material can neutralize pure energy constructs." "Industrial degreaser mostly," Tay replied, while checking the product label on his spray bottle. "With some quantum bonding solvents mixed in for the really tough cleaning jobs. We have to special order it from the chemical supply station, but it is definitely worth the extra cost for professional, quality results." The ethereal champion realized with growing horror that he was facing something completely unprecedented in galactic history. Someone who was immune to his most powerful attacks not through superior technology or mystical powers, but through the practical applications of professional janitorial supplies purchased from a maintenance catalog. Wispivore began gathering energy for his final, most desperate attack, while Tay continued cleaning the windows and humming a cheerful tune from his childhood. The ultimate confrontation was about to begin, and for the first time in his ancient existence, the mighty champion was genuinely afraid of losing. Wispivore's energy form pulsed with desperate fury that made the air around him crackle and spark. This situation was completely impossible and went against everything he understood about the universe. He was an ancient being who had mastered forces that existed before most stars were born. He was a champion who had never known defeat in countless battles across multiple galaxies. He absolutely could not lose to a creature whose greatest achievement was maintaining clean bathroom facilities. The ethereal began gathering every particle of power remaining in his ancient essence, preparing for an attack that would drain his life force, but guarantee total victory. This forbidden technique had been banned by his own people for thousands of years because of its terrible destructive potential. He started transforming into pure destruction itself, becoming a living weapon that could unmake matter at the quantum level. Tay noticed his energy monitoring instruments were showing dangerous spikes in several different readings, and he frowned with genuine concern for everyone's safety. "Sir, you really should not do that kind of thing in an enclosed space. The power buildup you are creating is causing very dangerous resonance patterns in the facility's structural supports. Someone could get seriously hurt." But Wispivore was far beyond listening to reasonable safety advice. He had become something like a miniature star, blazing with enough concentrated energy to sterilize entire continents. The arena's automated safety. Systems began screaming warnings as reality itself started to strain and crack under the massive assault. "I am eternal." The energy being roared with a voice that caused dimensional cracks to appear in the air around his blazing form. "I am the fury of dying suns and the rage of collapsed galaxies. I will not be defeated by a simple janitor." Tay sighed deeply and reached into his cleaning cart for the heavy-duty emergency equipment. When dealing with major contamination incidents or dangerous energy spills, sometimes you had to bring out the industrial-grade solutions that were normally reserved for the worst disasters. He pulled out a device that looked like a combination fire extinguisher and vacuum cleaner. The equipment was bulky and clearly designed for serious emergency situations. Warning labels covered every surface in multiple languages. "I really did not want to have to use this equipment today," he said apologetically while checking the devices. "Pressure gauges and safety systems. But you are creating what we classify as a Class 7 hazardous material situation, and I am required by safety regulations to contain it immediately before someone gets killed." The device was a quantum foam dispenser specifically designed for cleaning up unstable energy reactions in nuclear reactor cores and antimatter storage facilities. Tay had used similar equipment dozens of times to deal with power plant accidents, fusion containment breaches, and antimatter spills. The specialized foam would neutralize any energy-based contamination while safely containing the dangerous materials for proper disposal. He aimed the heavy dispenser directly at Wispvor's blazing form and calmly pulled the activation trigger. The containment foam expanded instantly, filling the air with a thick cloud of neutralizing agents that had been specifically engineered to break down dangerous quantum reactions. The foam surrounded the energy being like a gray blizzard designed by scientists to handle the most dangerous substances in known space. Wispvor's blazing form began to flicker and fade rapidly as the industrial cleaning foam absorbed his massive energy output with ruthless efficiency. The foam was designed to handle runaway fusion reactions and antimatter explosions. One angry energy being was well within its operational parameters. "No!" the champion screamed, but his voice was already growing weaker as the foam drained his power. "This cannot be happening to me. I am power incarnate. I am the living embodiment of cosmic forces." "Yeah, that is exactly the problem here," Tay said calmly, while adjusting the dispenser's output settings to maximum containment mode. "Uncontrolled energy discharge in a public facility is a very serious safety violation. Someone could get badly hurt or even killed if this kind of thing is not handled properly." The containment foam continued expanding and thickening, systematically neutralizing every particle of Wispvor's power until the mighty ethereal champion was reduced to nothing more than a barely visible flicker of light trapped helplessly within a bubble of industrial cleaning agents. The entire arena fell completely and utterly silent. In the spectator stands thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds stared in absolute shock and disbelief. Many had their mouths hanging open. Others were rubbing their eyes, wondering if they were experiencing some kind of mass hallucination. The ethereal delegation sat completely frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Their most powerful champion, a being of pure energy who had transcended physical existence itself, had just been defeated by what appeared to be nothing more than a janitorial accident involving industrial cleaning supplies. Ambassador Lee was gripping his chair so tightly that his hands had gone completely numb, but he was smiling more broadly than he had smiled in years. Against every law of logic and reason, Kim Tae had actually won the tournament. Supreme Chancellor Veltar slowly rose from his ceremonial seat with his forearms shaking slightly as he reached for the official announcement microphone. When he spoke, his voice cracked with emotion and disbelief. "The Tournament of Champions has reached its conclusion," he announced to the stunned crowd. By achieving victory over all other contestants, the human representative Kim Tae is officially declared the champion. The planet Earth wins territorial rights to all disputed sectors. The crowd erupted into complete chaos. Some species cheered wildly while others shouted protests. A few representatives seemed to be having religious experiences. The betting systems had crashed completely as trillions of credits changed hands in what was certainly the most unexpected upset in recorded galactic history. Tae was calmly cleaning and maintaining his foam dispenser, making sure all the equipment was properly serviced before putting it away in his cart. "Is the tournament completely finished now?" he asked politely. "Because I really do need to get back to my regular work schedule. The evening shift supervisor gets very cranky when the third-level bathrooms are not ready on time." He paused and looked around the arena with the satisfied expression of someone who had completed a job well done. Despite all the chaos and destruction of the battle, the facility was now in much better condition than when he had first arrived. The dimensional stabilizers were working properly, the air filtration systems were running efficiently, and he had eliminated several potentially dangerous safety hazards. "Not bad for a day's work," Tae said to himself, and began pushing his cleaning cart toward the exit. He had a space station to maintain, and true professionals always kept their schedules. No matter what. 3 months after the Tournament of Champions, Kim Tae was back to his normal daily routine on Seoul Space Station. He arrived for his work shift at exactly 6 o'clock in the morning, just like always. He checked his assignment list picked up his cleaning supplies, and began the careful, methodical process of maintaining humanity's newest and busiest orbital facility. The space station had grown tremendously since Earth gained access to the disputed star sectors. New trade routes brought more ships, more visitors, and unfortunately much more mess to clean up every single day. But Tae took genuine pride in his work, no matter how challenging the job became or how many extra hours it required. He was scrubbing a particularly stubborn stain from the main corridor wall when Ambassador Lee found him. The diplomat was slightly out of breath from hurrying through the station's long hallways, looking for the janitor in every possible location. "Tae," Lee called out with obvious relief. "There you are. I have been searching everywhere trying to find you." Tae looked up from his cleaning work and recognized the man who had been so nervous and worried during that strange tournament event a few months ago. The whole experience still seemed like an odd dream to the janitor. "Oh, hello, Mr. Lee," Tae said politely. "If this visit is about the atmospheric recycler in your office, I submitted that maintenance report several weeks ago. The unit keeps making that weird humming noise because someone installed the air filter completely backwards." No, this is not about office maintenance," Lee said quickly, then paused thoughtfully. "Well, actually, it is about maintenance in a way, but not the kind you are thinking of." He took a deep breath to calm his nerves. "Tae, do you fully understand what happened at that tournament? Do you realize what you actually accomplished there?" The janitor considered this question very carefully while continuing to scrub the stubborn stain. "I think I helped resolve some kind of diplomatic disagreement between different planets, and I managed to get that facility's safety systems working properly, which was long overdue. Those dimensional stabilizers alone were a major lawsuit waiting to happen." Ambassador Lee smiled warmly. It had taken him several months to fully understand that this was exactly how Tae viewed the entire universe. Every problem was simply a maintenance issue waiting for the right professional attention and proper tools. "Tae, the Galactic Council has decided to offer you a very important position as Director of Interspecies Facility Management. You would be responsible for establishing and maintaining proper safety standards across all Council territories. The job comes with a staff of 10,000 workers and a salary that would fully fund your children's education through graduate school and beyond." Tae paused his scrubbing work to consider this offer seriously. "That sounds like it would involve a lot of responsibility. Would I still get to do actual hands-on cleaning work, or would the job be mostly administrative meetings and paperwork?" "I am afraid it would be mostly administrative duties," Lee admitted. Lots of meetings, policy development, strategic planning sessions with various species representatives. No, thank you, Tay said immediately while returning to his cleaning work. I really do appreciate the offer, but I genuinely like